Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the My Tribe podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in another week. We are here because we're talking about why people don't act, the most common reasons why people don't act, and I want to get to the real reason why people don't act, why I believe that I don't take some action sometimes. So, some of the reasons are, let's call it people pleasing. Let's put that right down on the screen. People pleasing. It's the essence of making sure that you're, I'm nervous about what other people are going to think. I'm nervous about what my parents are going to think. I want to make sure I'm pleasing everyone with this post before I put it up. I want to please everyone with this business before I launch it. Make sure I have all of my ducks in a row. And, that could be someone's, they could be saying that's why they don't want to act. That's what this is. Some people will claim these things, but I truly want to share some of the other reasons why. The 3 Ps, they call it. We talk people pleasing. Well, the next thing we're going to cover is perfectionist. Put that right there. A perfectionist, to be a perfectionist, to make sure everything is perfect. Hair's right. Oh man, is the lighting right? Is everything just picture perfect before we get going? Because if it's not, then I can't put it out there. Right? Okay? The next one is procrastination. Oh, well, I'm going to do this and you know what? Let me do this first. And let me just organize my desk first before I get any work done. And I can't do work if I think about laundry. That's all of it. Procrastination. You've been in that seat before. But before I go to the real reason why I believe people don't actually do the work or take action, I want to nix these one at a time. Going back to the top, people pleasing. You're never going to please everyone, no matter what you do. If you are pleasing everyone, that means you're actually not doing anything that's significant enough to upset anyone. So, in essence, I think that, the fact that you have haters, people say, oh man, this person hates me. Good. And that whole group doesn't like me, and because listen, you're doing the wrong thing, that's a different story. But if they don't like you because you're successful, they don't like you because what you've done has brought community, has brought joy to people's lives, and they don't like you because of that, good. That is a good sign in your life that you're heading in the right direction, that what you're doing is the right thing, that you have some haters. That is a great, great, great thing. I need you to know that. You'll never be able to please everyone. That is just not going to happen. So that excuse, out the window. Goodbye. Never going to please everybody. Number 2, perfectionist. The deed that you do is better than the deed that you do in the perfect way. Whatever it is, your version of perfect, it's someone else's version of not that great. Because you're not talented enough. You haven't taken the reps. And you can't get really good at something without taking the reps. I always go back to lacrosse because the stick is right here. My lacrosse shot, and at the height of my career, it was perfect for me. It would score me many goals. But the essence of if I compare that shot to somebody who's playing at a higher level, that shot was shit. So if I kept taking reps and I kept taking reps, then that shot's going to get better and better and better and eventually be at that higher level. But if I said, at that point, I just stopped taking shots because it's not perfect, it's not as good as the person at that higher level is, well, then I could just pack up and go home. But you know what? It's the imperfect reps that gets you more closer to that perfectionist excuse you're giving yourself to not produce. And procrastination, that's the age old, I'm going to do this first before I do that. I'm going to watch TV first. I'm going to eat first, and then I'm going to get my work done. No, you need to live with a right now mentality. That's something as I'm going across interviewing these passionate dreamers in this podcast, Scott Camoin just talked about it. Right now, if you see something that needs to be taken care of, take care of it right now. Believe it, see it, do it right now. Unless it can't be taken care of right now, don't take care of it right now. But if you can take care of it and it deserves to be taken care of, it's an urgent matter, take care of it right now. If you procrastinate, it's only going to build and build and build and build. But all of those things, right? Let's just say we were, and I truly believe the procrastination, the people pleasing, and the perfectionist, all those 3 P's that is our persona that we put over, the 3P persona is buried deep down. And the real reason why people don't act is shame. It's the shame that they don't believe that the work they have, the work that they're producing is good enough. They don't believe that the Instagram post is good enough to put up. It's not, they're ashamed of it, of the way that they look, of the double chin, of the way their arms look a little bit bigger than they were last year. They're ashamed of what people might think, of what people might judge them on. They're ashamed. And when they're ashamed, or if they need to develop a skill, right? That's my personal experience is that Intuit QuickBooks, right? Doing accounting work. That's something that I don't consider myself very skilled at. And I could sit here and say, oh, I want to be a perfectionist, and leave it to the professionals and pay them a whole lot of money to classify every single thing, every single month, to put it all in there. And I'll be wasting a lot of money. But you know what? I was only avoiding that work because I felt ashamed, because I did not feel comfortable doing it. And when I thought about doing it, there was this friction. There was this apprehension towards what I wanted to do. Not what I wanted to do, what I knew I needed to do. And I'd say, all right, well, let me dive into this financial stuff I've been putting it off for months now. Let me go do it. But let me do this first. And I have an open tab, and I just start doing that. And I would avoid it. I'd avoid it at all costs. And all I know, I'm 2 hours into work, but I didn't get the work that I sat down to get that work done because I was ashamed that I didn't know 100% how to do it. I know how to sit down, put on a camera, and run a podcast. I know how to sit down and across to somebody and interview them. I know that is a strength of mine. You may not think it's that good, but you're still watching. Hey. But that's something that I'm not ashamed to do. That's not something that I'm not proficient in. QuickBooks, accounting, assets, liabilities. Oddly enough, I did probably one of the best in my I think it was college, in accounting 101. And I did pretty good, but again, it's that not doing those reps added to the shame, added to the embarrassment of not knowing how to do it. And I think that at the bottom of that shame, I didn't realize until I started working with a mentor of mine on a regular basis that, shame is the essence of why we avoid the work. Shame is the essence of why we avoid having that tough conversation. We're ashamed of our point of view, and we're really afraid to be vulnerable. And I think that vulnerability is so powerful. And one of the things that I just did in my life, maybe you guys have seen it, was the 12 days of vulnerability. And I used the essence of 12 days of giving. And I had that, somebody put up, 12 days of giving. I'm going to be giving for 12 days. And something, again, I just, these ideas, they come to my head, and I really believe God dropped this one in on me. And I was like, all right, well, cool. That makes me nervous. That makes me feel like, I'd probably be ashamed about what would end up being out there. And you know what? That's why I had to do it. because I had to lean into the shame. I had to lean into that friction, lean into what I didn't want to do for so long, lean into being vulnerable and see if I'm still alive on the other side. I could still feel this. This is what all this is. And for you viewers on this Spotify, I'm tapping myself so I can see that I'm alive, that I am living and breathing, that I'm going to be okay, that nobody is going to kill me because I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable. And if I allow myself to be vulnerable and somebody uses that as a weapon against me, you know what? Thank you. You do not deserve to be in my life. Thank you. I appreciate you. Peace out, y'all. That's it. If that is the case, you've shown me that you don't deserve this, me in your life at all. Thank you. And I don't deserve your bullshit in my life. You're going to weaponize my vulnerability. Number one. Number two, just to go down like the essence of vulnerability. And this isn't me patting myself on the back at all, because it isn't. I don't want this to be, but I do want this to be a massive message for each and every one of you. Vulnerability is the highest form of courage one can express. We watch all the movies, we see Braveheart, we see, all of these massive Gladiator, you see these feats of courage, 300, and these guys are, most of the time it's guys, yeah, okay. They're taking on this big feat, and you think of courage, yeah, that guy's courageous. He's courageous to take up and fight, right? That's courage right there. And don't get me wrong, 300 or Gladiator and Braveheart, they're all very courageous movies. I'm not taking anything away from them. There are courageous acts taken in those movies. But on a day-to-day basis, none of you have the ability to fight the fight of that nature. And each and every one of you has the ability to be vulnerable. And I think that, again, honoring that, I think standing there in your nakedness of vulnerability with the right people, with the right intentions, of course. That's the other thing. People are vulnerable for the wrong intentions. People are vulnerable with the wrong people. You need to make sure you're trusting the right people when you're being vulnerable, when you're opening up to someone. Is this somebody that I can trust, that's near and dear, that has my best intentions at heart? Is something that I always consider when I'm going to be vulnerable with somebody. That's one. And, just to get back to the concept of vulnerability being the highest form of courage, if you think of something that people, okay, now it's about to be 2025, right? Oh man, it's going to be the new year. It's the new year. We're here. What are some things that people look back in the year and check off, right? It's bungee jumping. It's skydiving. It's shark diving. These are the things that people, that's their version of courage. But you know what it took? It took a certain level of vulnerability. Some call it trust, some call it faith, but I think at the root of it, it's a vulnerability that parachute's going to open. It's a vulnerability that you're in the cage, that cage is not going to open up and have a malfunction, the shark's going to eat you and die. It's a vulnerability that bungee cord is not going to snap when you jump between the mountains. It's a vulnerability. Being the highest form of courage, and our top one right now, is love. When you tell somebody that you love them, you're being extremely vulnerable. Think about the last time you built up the courage to tell somebody that you love them. And I'm not talking like, even on the phone, man, even on the phone, like, I'm talking what I am originally referring to is like the first time. You both haven't said anything. This is the beginning of a relationship. You both haven't said I love you and I love you at all. Nobody said that. But now somebody in the essence of it started and had to say it. The person that put themselves out there, they are leading in a courageous way. They're opening their heart to this other individual. And maybe it goes well. Hopefully it does. But if it doesn't, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position. And that right there is the highest form of courage, in my opinion. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to embrace that courage that we're here to live and wrestle and flex with. That's what life is. Life is building strength and being vulnerable enough to show your weaknesses, to even get stronger, to be better. If I never dove into QuickBooks and every time I felt ashamed about doing something, years ago I was ashamed to post on social media. Now I hold myself, all right, at least once a day, man. Let's go, let's do something with this. Let's face that shame. That's what 30 to 30 was for me, was facing that vulnerability of that shame of I'm ashamed to put something on social media every single day. It was wild to me how much I had to fight that shame and say, you know what? I made a promise. I made a promise to a whole lot of people, and I'm going to make sure that I fulfill that promise. There's something about a promise when you announce it. For me, it's when I announce it on social media. I don't know why, but it seems to hold me accountable. And it's a beautiful thing. It's truly a beautiful thing to hold myself accountable in that way. Because if I don't, then who will? If I don't make that announcement, I don't say I'm going to be doing these things, I do it half-ass, and you know what? I end up living a half-ass life. That's the truth. That's the sad and honest truth. If I don't set real attainable goals, then I do not actually create a plan to reach them. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. I want you to take that, chew on that. Till next week. We're getting into the new year, new me. We're going to dive into that. What does that mean? We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like and send this to a friend. If they're saying, I want to do something and I'm not really sure, or they've been talking about this business idea, maybe they need to go through the 3 Ps in their book and actually address it, do it, and knock those 3 out and really get to the core of their problem, which might be the shame. I know I was there. I'm going to be the first one to admit, I very much had the shame. I very much was ashamed of the fact that I couldn't do this. I couldn't do accounting. I was ashamed of how good I wasn't good at social media. And I'm blessed to have faced it. And by no way am I saying I'm the best accountant, or by no way am I a social media content creator in any way. But I know I'm better because I took the reps. Because I took that shame, I put it aside, and said, you know what? This is a talent I need to work on. And I can't let shame drive my life. I can't let that comfort. If I feel ashamed, I'm going to comfort. I'm going to do something I want to do. I'm going to go back to social media and scroll. No. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to feel that friction, feel that shame, honor that is coming up in my body, and go right towards it. That is what was so important for me diving into this here, realizing that shame is the compass that has been leading us away from our goals, but it is the direct compass that needs to be leading us towards the activities that are going to bring us to our goals. Whoa, that was a good one. Thank y'all for tuning in. Very much. A lot of love. And thank you very much, everybody. Peace.